G'day Fisho, Sammy here, and we are at lovely Lake Copeton. I'm joined here with Colby Lesko, Murray cod specialist. Well, that's what I'm calling you. That's what I'm calling you. And we've been here for the last 4 days chasing Murray cod. We thought we'd give you a bit of a run through of what we're doing and some tactics for you guys to use when you get out here. So Colby, mate, rumour has it you got a beast this trip. Talk us through it.
Oh yeah, I was lucky enough to snag a good one. The bite's been a little bit tougher than usual, but yeah, got into a nice one the other night that went 126. So that was
now,
good.
126 is a big fish by pretty well everyone's opinion. It's a serious Murray cod, but we're going to go through the tackle that we use and some of the gear that we use so you guys can arm yourselves and get yourselves ready for when you do a trip yourself, because you do need some pretty specialised gear. These cod are big. The lures are very different to lots of other impoundments where you'd fish for cod, and yeah, we're doing some pretty crazy things. What do you reckon? Let's start on surface.
Yeah.
So Lake Copeton is renowned as a Murray cod surface fishery, but this trip it's been completely different. No fish on surface at all for us, fishing all deep, but surface is definitely something you need to have in your box. So what's your favourite surface lure?
Probably the big wake snakes, the big wooden ones. Yeah, they definitely seem to catch the big fish in Copeton. I've caught some good ones on them before, especially if the topwaters bite here is good. You want to be throwing something big, make a lot of noise, and yeah, create some commotion.
So these guys here, these are a wake snake. So they sit just on the surface and create a whole heap of commotion as you slowly wind them. These joints all click and they make a heap of noise, and the cod absolutely love them. Now, as you can see, serious bits of kit. They're fairly long, fairly heavy, so you do need some pretty heavy gear to throw them, which we'll go through shortly. But yeah, that's one style. You've got the wake snake, you've got paddlers like this guy here, or this guy even bigger than that. These guys, these paddle along like that, again, create a lot of commotion. The cod come out, get quite aggressive and come and smash them. Or there's just below the surface, like this one here, which is, it's another wake. So it probably goes just a bit deeper than something like this. Makes still surface commotion, but yeah, it's a bit smaller presentation. Plenty of noise, plenty of attraction. Now, that's surface. What's the next avenue you go down if you're out Copeton chasing cod? You're not having any luck on the surface.
Yeah, you probably definitely want to start looking at the swim baits. Swim baits has really taken off on the lake over the last couple of years, and yeah, they're definitely really effective. Anything big with a fish profile that swims has a really good action. Well, you don't need a lot of rolling action, but just, yeah, good tail kicks. The fish seem to love it.
And swim baits is what we've had all our luck on this trip. 100% of our fish have all come to swim baits. Now, swim baits come in a whole host of shapes and sizes. There is heaps and heaps of them. We're going to show you the ones we got rigged, but you can get ones like that. They're massive things, big paddle tail, plenty of vibration, look like a fish through the water. You've got, what's this one here, mate?
It's a Storm Ripshad.
Storm Ripshad.
Big soft plastic, 8-inch one. They're really good too, especially when the fish are a little bit deeper than the floating swim baits. Get down to them.
So this guy here is a big Savage gear. Now you can see we've hung a few hooks on them. Because cod are very much an implosion feeder, you want to make sure you've got plenty of hooks and hook coverage in your lures, because they suck them in and spit them out very quickly. So you want to make sure you've got something there that's going to pin them in the corner of their mouth, and you're not going to go home with your tail between your legs. Now we'll quickly touch on chatterbaits before we go to our big swim baits. Now, mate, what is this? This is a crazy contraption. If I saw that on the wall of a tackle shop, I'd walk around it. Talk to me, mate, talk to me.
Yeah, that's just a chatterbait. A lot of fish shows have been doing really well at Copeton this season on them in particular, because the fish are a little bit deeper and not on the surface. Yeah, it's just a little bit more subtler than a spinnerbait. It just gives a really kicking action on that big plastic behind it. You can fish them fairly deep, fish them through snags, and yeah, the Copeton fish seem to like them.
Now that big blade on the front, that actually chops through the water and goes like that. Again, creates a lot of flash, a lot of vibration. Cod see that, gets up in their face, and they can't resist it. They got to have a chop at them. Now, one thing we don't have on this table is big spinner baits. We didn't bring in any with us, but they are another viable option. Great for around rocks and boulders because they don't snag up very easily. They're great for sinking down. You can fish them at any depth. But yeah, you want to go as big as you possibly can with the spinner baits. Have you heard of any people fishing spinner baits in Copeton to success?
Yeah, definitely. In previous years, people have caught a lot of good fish in Copeton on spinner baits, but nowadays everybody's kind of leaning a bit towards swim baits, a bit more natural presentation.
A bit more natural.
Copeton's been fished a lot, so the fish are seeing a lot of lures, and yeah, keeping up with the times for the swim baits is good.
Okay, well, let's talk about the lures that we've had all our success on, these big swim baits here. Now these are, well, these are pretty well, we've matched the hatch is what we've done. These are a jackal lure, but these guys here, we're fishing these quite deep. Now these match the bait that's in this dam very well. I don't actually know the name of what the bait is in here, but the profile of these guys and this nice realistic color seems to be really working, and the fish are responding well. We've caught all our fish on these two lures here, or these, another one of those that got lost to a bigger fish. But yeah, mate, how do these go? How do you fish these?
Yeah, so basically they float, and if you want to fish them shallow, like in 10 foot or shallower, you just fish them the way they come. But how we've been fishing them is a little bit deeper again, so they got this little tow point on the front that you just attach a weight to. We've been fishing really deep, up to like 15 meters at times, so we've got some fairly heavy weights on them at the moment, and you just cast them out, let them sink down to your desired depth, and then slow roll them back. You chuck a few pauses in, let it get back down to the bottom. We've actually found that's quite effective this trip, and yeah, getting a few fish on the pause as it drops down as well.
So you can see there, I don't know if the camera can pick that up, you can see that little that little lead weight, little sinker there we've got attached to that bottom tow point, and that's just allowing us to weight those up just how we like them, to get them to sink down nice and slowly, keep them down in the strike zone in those fish's face. Now these don't have a massive action, you can see they're fairly restricted joints, but seems to be enough. The cod are really sucking them down. Now another jointed swim bait that I would, tangled up here, would recommend something like this. Again, we're matching the hatch again. Big profile lure, nice natural color. This Savage Gear, this is Shine Glider. Nice action, glides through the water. You can really walk it from side to side. Again, we've got nice solid hooks on there. And that's actually one thing we should probably touch on. Hooks. You want to upgrade a lot of the hooks that come in the lures. Unless they're specifically made for cod, like these big wake snakes, you're going to have to upgrade the hooks, aren't you? Because they're solid fish, they're big, they've got a lot of weight behind them, and they're quite powerful on the hit, and you can straighten out lures. You've yourself straightened out plenty of trebles on big fish, so.
Yeah, and definitely watch the rings as well. On these jackal ones in particular, they do have some pretty light rings, and it can, yeah, change them over as you change the hooks over.
Yeah, so that's a very hot tip. You don't want to come to all the effort, finally get a hit after a few days, and then get unstuck because of tackle failure. Now, let's touch on our gear, because we're throwing some serious rods and reels into the mix here.
Yeah, well basically, Copeton, you want to throw big stuff, so you want a big rod and reel to throw it, don't you?
You do. And because these fish are big, you need a bit of stopping power. They're not renowned for fighting power, but they do hit hard, and if they do want to, they can run you back into the snags. But the primary focus of these big heavy rods is to cast those bigger baits. Now, what have you got there? It's a big swim baiting rod?
Yeah, I got the Stormarashi swim bait rod.
And what's the specs on that one?
It's 12 to 24 kilo and casts 40 to 120 grams. And it's from memory, it's 8 foot, so you can really launch those big baits. Right,
I've got very similar. I've got an 8 foot. This is a Savage Gear browser. This is actually 8 foot, and its casting weight is 4 to 10 ounces. Now that's a serious rod, but for these bigger baits, some of these are up to 150 grams, so you really actually need that stronger rod. It's not so much for the fight, more so for casting, getting big long casts with these big lures. Now another thing we should touch on is these reels. We've got big low profile bait casters. Now we don't need a ton of line, but we need heavy braid. Now out here in Copeton, it gets damn cold. So much so that your runners and your guides and your reel can get ice and all sorts of build up on it while you're fishing, and that can rough up your braid. So you want to fish a fairly heavy braid just in case it locks up or you get an overrun or that ice wears it through, that you're not going to cast off one of these expensive swim baits while you're fishing, because you don't want to be losing too many, I can tell you that much. So I'm running 50 pound, what are you running?
Yeah, I'm running 50 as well.
So we're both running 50 pound. I probably wouldn't go any lighter than 30. 30's probably the lightest I'd go. You just don't want to cast off one of these lures. You're not going to have any fish that you need to thumb lock too bad to stop, but you just need it for that casting and abrasion resistance, I guess, against the runners when it's icy. Now, I've got a lighter one here. It's just the same sort of style, 8 foot. It's just a little bit lighter, and that's for my smaller lures, my lighter swim baits, or my bib divers, which we haven't talked about yet. Now, I don't know if people fish a lot of bib divers here, but it's probably worth having one in the mix. I've just got a small square bill crank there. That guy you can cast around the rocks in the shallow stuff. What have you got there? That one there's a...
Yeah, I got the Rapala Super Shadow Wrap. It's just a new shallow diver, so when the fish are up in the shallows, the bait's flicking and they're eating it. They're good options to throw in the mix as well.
So one thing you can notice, we've got quite deep body profile. Again, we're trying to match that hatch. trying to mimic the bait fish that is in the dam. So you don't want the kind of minnow style, you want those really fat, thick bodied ones to create a lot of profile and a lot of vibration and kick out a lot of noise underwater. So a couple of options there to have in your bag. Now, Copeton, like we said, it's pretty damn cold, and you do a lot of your fishing at night. So one other thing to take with you, make sure you've got adequate lighting, take your head torch with you, and I'd probably recommend one of these. This is the national footwear of Lake Copeton, the Ugg boot. I know I would be lost without mine, we're all wearing them. Yeah. It looks pretty funny, heaps of grown men just tramping around in Ugg boots, but trust me, they will save your feet. It is supremely cold here. But guys, that's about it. Have you got anything else to add? What have we missed, mate? Anything important?
Probably just the other thing that's really important to fish at Copeton is just target those prime bright times of early morning and late arvo, especially if you want to throw surface and the surface bite's good. But yeah, once the sun gets up, you want to be fishing that little bit deeper, and yeah, just keep plugging away, they'll eventually come.
And I think that's another thing we should definitely touch on. Lake Copeton is a big dam, there's a lot of water here, there's plenty of fish, but you really do have to just be persistent. You could be a great fisherman, but if you're not fishing the right areas or the cod aren't on the chew, you're going to really struggle to get those hits. So you got to keep casting. That's one thing I can't stress enough. Keep casting, keep persisting, and eventually you're going to come up trumps. Just don't give up and go hard.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely. Righto. Well, I reckon we've got an afternoon session just about ready to go for us. So we're going to pack up here, get out in the water, and see if we can't land one more fish before we head home tomorrow. Righto, guys. Good luck out there if you come. Catch you later, Colby. Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me on this trip. You're going to see some pretty cool footage after this. Stay tuned. So it's the afternoon now. We're just waiting for the sun to dip down a little bit so we can get stuck into an arvo session. So I thought I'd quickly touch on what to look for structure-wise out in Copeton Dam. Now, there's kind of three main types of structure. You've got the big open flats, you've got the deep drop-offs, and you've also got the boulder country and the fallen timber. So I think the most important thing to look for is the bait. Obviously cod, big predatory feeders, they're going to be always chasing a feed. So if you can find that bait, that's going to be your first step in finding the cod. Now, whether they're up on the flats because the temperature's right or everything's right for that, or down the deeper stuff, it's something you're going to have to kind of assess trip by trip. For us, this trip, we found them in the deeper water. They weren't up on the flats at all. Everyone struggled up on the flats. Actually, no fish got caught up in the flats. And but they're all sitting deeper, and we're having a lot of success fishing quite deep, and that's because that bait was there. Now the timber work, those fish usually they have their rock or their lay down that they like to live in. They might venture away from that at night and forage for food, but generally a cod will have one big snag that he'll call his own. In that case, if you can get a lure in front of his face while he's sitting in there, you're in with a good shot. But there is a lot of structure in here, a lot of timber, so you're going to have to put in some casts for it. The best bet, talk to the guys at the kiosk when you come down there. They've got a pretty good idea of what's going on, or just fish hard. Give everything a crack until you start getting a few results. After that, keep going. What we found is we found fish in one particular area this trip, and we just kept peppering that spot and it kept producing. We didn't have to move, and if we did, we probably wouldn't have caught anything. We found what was working, we kept on persisting with that, and it kept on producing results. So from a fishing point of view, kind of may get a little bit boring just going back to the same spot, but if you're still catching fish, then nothing wrong with that. Righto guys, catch you later. We got to start casting. Cheers.